Hello and welcome to Ignore All Previous Instructions. This is Pam here, and today I have Nora Gibson joining me. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. And Nora, would you please tell our listeners what you're into, what you're up to?
Sure. I'm an artist. I work in new media and in choreography, and I also consider myself a researcher. So, because I have a dance background, it's like three good 3 decades, if not more, in dance. I have a very strong interest in anything that has to do with the body and the mind, body mind connection, um, whether that is a unified connection, a dualistic connection. These are questions that are still being addressed today and I think are super relevant in today's tech forward era. So, so dance very much informs what I do and what I make. So I work a lot with biodata. I use biodata from my brain, from like electrodermal activity, heart rate, temperature, movement data.
Sensors.
Yeah, sensors, absolutely. And then I take that data and either in real time or with stored data that I record and capture, I animate and bring installation work and sound to life.
Do you remember what the first tech-enabled dance project you did was?
Um, yes, um,
Or I'm interested in the
yes,
year. Like, when did you do it?
yes. So this is a very primitive form, but I when I was in rehearsals, this is when I was doing just traditional choreography for the stage, and I would wish for like in terms of creating the composition. Um, I like the way, say in music, you can just have a sound
Score.
evaporate. Well, you can have sounds emerge and evaporate within the
Oh, okay.
space, and so having this solid body, it's a blessing, but a limitation as well, compositionally, because you have to actually get yourself off the stage if you want that
Mm,
negative space. And so I was like, oh,
oh.
I wish I could just have bodies become translucent or just disappear
Fade
sometimes
in, fade
within,
out.
yeah, with
Okay.
fade in, fade out within the composition. And so I actually started playing around with a colleague, a lighting designer friend, and we put together these short films that used layers of transparency
Mm.
and actually was again like I come from a very musical family, so I'm very musically inspired in a lot of my work. So I was also playing with like Steve Reich's phasing techniques. So I was using these transparency and then phasing, and then having these cycles where the
And Steve Reich is
translucency
a
would.
visual person or a dance person?
Steve Reich is a
A music
composer.
person.
Yes, and
A third
so
option.
yeah, so phasing is like if you imagine swings and they're
Okay.
going at different rates. So this
Hmm.
one's going faster than the other one, and eventually they'll come
They,
together. And then
yeah,
so they come in
in and
they're
out of
out in.
phase.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
so I wanted to play with that idea as a compositional structure and with transparencies. And so that was,
Hmm.
I'm going to say, like around um 2010 or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, where I was
20,
just,
we're
yeah,
well over
like
20 years
a
ago.
long time ago.
So,
And
or wait,
I
no,
at the
math, 14.
yeah, and my lighting designer friend did really all of the heavy lifting with that. I had the idea, but they knew how to actually use like software like Adobe Premiere or whatnot. At that time,
Sure. But then that kicks off your journey into how do I use these things?
Exactly. So at first it was through sort of more of a dance for camera type of
Mm-hmm.
experimentation. But my beginning with technology was really more based on these ideas of how how a digital format can could for me really expand certain even just compositional techniques within dance. And yeah, the issue was that I really didn't use a computer for anything except for email at the time. So yeah, so there was a long big learning curve ahead of me.
I can imagine. I've when I've intersected with doing in computing's intersections with other fields, I
Mm-hmm.
often have experienced that, oh, you didn't major in, English because you also did computer science. Like it's usually like it's like, oh, you did X, like, and thus because you did X, you did not do Y. And
Right. That's right.
that now technology is so pervasive that it's it's a bit of an expectation.
Yes, exactly. It's amazing to me how, like kids are learning how to code, like doing like block coding and
Oh yeah,
like
Scratch
in
and the cool stuff.
yeah,
I
in
mean, we're starting
elementary
with
school.
Python. Yeah.
So yeah, and now I'm learning Python, but it just took me a really long time. So yeah,
Yeah, for the
yeah.
stuff that you do, I think that yes, Python and I mean C++ would also serve you very well for
Probably yes,
yeah.
but yeah. So yeah, the software that I use, you can further automate it with
Yes.
Python. So
Mm-hmm. Very nice. And so I also thought we could talk about or here at the beginning a little bit about how we met and
yes,
that
yes.
the I one of the fun things about I like about say being in an art collective is I would say we're still technically in an art collective. Like
Yes, why not? Yes.
right not like the
Yeah,
so Philly AV never closed.
that's
So
right. That's right. And actually, I was very conscious of, even though I didn't know if, was I going to stay in Canada? Like, what that was maybe that's maybe jumping ahead. So
sure, when you were in
everybody,
Canada.
everyone listening, at some point ahead of this part of the story, I will have moved to Canada, and now I'm back. But anyway, so that's just
Just
some foreshadowing. But I was very aware. I was very conscious of like, oh, I don't want to remove myself from our Discord
right from
because
our little
yeah,
collective.
yeah, I didn't I thought even if I never return to Philly, I just and I always, I made sure like if I were in town or something or when I was coming back, it's like one of the things that I was, it was on my mind to do. I would always be like, "Hey, everyone, I'm back in town," because
Yeah. And
I,
we
I'm,
always
sh-
appreciate it. So,
yeah, it's like everybody is in a new and interesting place, and yeah, I
hmm
think I think yeah, that is why I was glad that you messaged me about this because I just feel like, oh yes, like let's get back into the sense of community and being interested in each other's work. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and we played a couple shows
We
and
did.
yeah,
Yeah,
when I
that's
was
right.
doing more of the live code music, uh,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
again, still out there. I did a show earlier this year. So
V-
that
Very
was the first time in a
cool.
while.
Yeah, very cool. And actually, my thesis supervisor does live coding as well on um does he use Reaper? He uses something that's
Music
akin
or
to
visuals?
no music.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice, nice.
he's a composer. So
Cool. Very
yeah,
cool.
and it was a platform where you can live code with people anywhere in the world.
Oh, those are so cool. There's a few of those, and
Yeah,
they're so
title.
computationally interesting too,
Yeah, like
because dealing
title
with music
something.
over time and network is
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
fun problem.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, we yeah, Philly AV. So that was also um I I was so what happened was that because I have friends who were electronic musicians, this was back in like maybe I don't know 2017 or something. I was
Nice.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to go to. I'd learned of MUTEC, the digital art and music festival. It's actually many places in the world, but I was going to the one in Montreal. And
Hmm.
I just went as an enthusiast, because
Yeah, I wanted to
I was
ask you
just
about that, about
choreographing.
like now you have pieces performing in these shows, but I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you who are the people who go to these festivals? Because there's a few of these, like
Hmm.
technology and art. MUTEC's a big one. I think you mentioned Ars something.
Ars Electronica in Austria, that's huge. That's like 80,000 people are going.
Oh my
So
goodness. So
yeah,
who
yeah,
goes? Who are the
yeah.
people?
I think that in these, so all of these festivals are a little bit different and have a somewhat different angle. I would say Ars Electronica is exceptional because it's a 40-year-old festival, and it's really based in art, technology, and science.
Mm.
So there are partnerships with many universities, um, and people are coming and showing their research. So you will see
Oh,
a
that's cool.
lot of sort of, it runs the gamut from I would say what could be called like fine art, like for any classical music fans, like Maki Namakawa. She was a very, very famous concert pianist, a wonderful interpreter of Philip Glass. She
Mm.
has performed, uh, and then there's like incredible like audio reactive visuals being played behind her. So that's like more of like an
Mm.
art piece. And then you see like research that people are doing on robotics, on
Mm.
AI, AI learning models from like bee patterns or
Okay.
weather patterns. I mean, so you see like you see practical research being done with technology. You see like critical research and work being done at these crossroads. And yeah, so the people who come are not just, well, anybody who has an enthusiasm for art, science, and technology, I would say. And that really
80,000
is,
of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like entire families were coming through, and they usually have like a whole children's section
Mm.
at ours where children can
Delicious.
work
Yeah.
on like building their own robots or something. It's just like, it's a very um, huge, comprehensive festival. And then, of course, a lot of people in the industry are going to those festivals as well. So, um,
Do
yeah. And
you?
then I was going to just finish up just by saying like, and different festivals have different angles. So, for instance, MUTEC is a very music forward
Mhm.
festival. So, digital music or electronic music,
Mhm.
and then visuals. Um, so you'll see quite a lot of that, and people who enjoy that kind of music or those kind of features will attend that festival.
Very nice. So, I that makes me think of something I want to talk to you about, and this could be kind of the transition point, and
Mm.
I'll ask it in and unfortunately like a yes or no shape, but we're not going to go that way. Is that does what I wonder about these events and creating art and at the intersection of technology and art, does
Mm.
it help with the feeling of despair as related to technology and the world?
I
Does
think
it
it
help?
can. I think no, I think it can. So I have thought about this topic quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This is really close to my heart, and Yeah, I think that a lot of my thesis is based on this as a component of a sort of a larger idea. But um, so the U.S. Surgeon General um, issued an advisory in, I want to say, 2023.
Okay.
So on the loneliness epidemic.
Right.
And other countries have also acknowledged that there is a loneliness crisis.
It's massive.
And
I've heard a lot about in Australia and East Asia and countries in East Asia. Like
that's right. That's right.
it's
And countries like Japan and I think
mhm.
Britain now have ministers to
There's
address,
yeah.
to address this. So, I read the document, and there is a concomitant relationship between
What
the
does
use of tech.
concomitant mean?
Concomitant, so
Uh-huh.
like a correlating,
Okay.
like things happening to get together. Um, there is a relationship between the rise in the use of technology
Yeah.
and the feeling of isolation.
Right. Disconnect and yeah.
Yes, yes, and I mean this isn't something that, or it should be actually quite clear and straightforward. It's we experience this in all sorts of ways, like um when you go to the grocery store, you check your own groceries out. So that is a missed opportunity. That's, something that now technology has allowed. Like, this is the new user experience at the grocery store, right?
Right. Is that you get
Your
to
UX
also you get to
design.
go the work you get to go to the grocery store and you also get to experience working at the grocery store. Um
Yeah, yeah. This
at the same
this is
time. How
yeah.
great.
The
How
the
wonderful.
the UX designers on this are like, okay, you go in, you have to do the work yourself. You don't actually have to interact or talk with anyone.
Hmm.
Um, which is fine if you need a break from like,
Yeah, if that's what you want. But
if you want, but
there's like these micro social interactions are
yes.
very, very positive for people.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I actually read a book
Yeah.
on this about
Oh,
micro
okay.
interactions and
Hmm.
how crucial they are, which is why the studies that poo poo the Surgeon General's point of view, they're like, oh, we spent just as much time as we did, 40 years ago, like with friends and family. But it's like, but we actually don't spend as much time with these micro interactions that actually
Mm.
are more significant than we thought that they were. So if you don't have an active social life, like, that's something that's taken away from your day. And sort of the drip effect, like it does, these absences add up. So, and we're scrolling and we are not seeing people maybe as often face to face, because we get that little hit of satisfaction with the contacting or chatting over Facebook, maybe, or whatever platform. And so maybe we're not having the same quality of interactions. We're certainly not having the embodied experience. Um,
And is
so
that
part,
where it intersects with what you're thinking about with your art making is the embodied
yes,
part?
yes, because so one of the really interesting things that I did while I was in Montreal was I interned at a neuroscience lab for about a half a year,
When
and I was
you were getting your MFA and you were there for 2 years,
for
1 year,
for 3 years,
3 years.
three. Yeah,
Time has gone
yes.
so, oh my gosh, it's
I
so
know it's
wild.
been a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was not part of my program. It's just something that I just
And
sought
you
some
interned at a neuroscience lab
at McGill, actually at a different
as an
university,
artist, as a lab tech,
as an
as an
artist.
artist.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
How'd
yeah.
you pitch that?
Um I I
That's awesome.
the PI at the lab had also
Principal investigator.
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
yes. had also worked as had studied seriously as a musician and was
There's
very
strong
arts friendly.
musician and sciences, musician and like
Yeah,
computing crossover.
totally. There is, yes. Um, but anyway, so yeah, they were very artist friendly lab, and so and I was there to well, I I had a I was there actually to analyze some evidence that they had with regard to a study that they did and look at it from an artist's point of view. And that's
Okay.
another story. But my own personal research was quite related, though. It was I was researching essentially it's what you would call second person neuroscience. So it's it's the questions around when we are in shared aesthetic experiences, our bodies, our systems often sync up. So, for instance, our brain waves, the cellular activity, the heart rate, the electrodermal activity, these
These are things
indicia.
where like why it feels good to me to sit in a room full of people who are meditating, like it when I'm meditating. Feels nice.
Probably.
Feels nice. And
So
when you try it sometime. That's
it's
great.
yes, it can. But so and maybe it is due to this, but yeah, sometimes our bodies will literally sync up. So now, there is not really an explanation for what or how exactly that is happening. And why could also be debated too. Is this like, does this benefit us evolutionarily, from an evolution standpoint,
Yeah, I
or
definitely have
is
some
there?
philosophical ideas and absolutely
Yes,
zero
yeah,
biological ideas.
yes, exactly. And
Hmm
that's the direction I went. I started to think about this philosophically, and
hmm
that's how I chose to answer it for myself. But um in the art. So
hmm
but my point was
We were talking
that
about the loneliness
yes,
epidemic and
right.
micro
So
interactions, and then
yes. And so the thing is that there is a very real basis for something that is happening in our bodies and minds when we are in the presence of others, and in the presence of others particularly doing sharing some experience together, and particularly an aesthetic one. So
mm,
so for me, um using technology, I'm going from a place that's like fully embodied, right? It's like dancing.
right,
I'm
dance.
dancing, I'm using my body, you're watching the me or the dancers on stage, all sorts of mirror neuron things happening, and
Hmm
all of the other things, right? So it's like we're having a very dance. It's very easy to explain why that might be a very satisfying embodied
hmm
shared experience for people. But as I started to use technology, I had to answer the question for myself, because there is so much cool stuff going on in the world of technology. I had to ask myself, like, well, why do you why do you want to use technology? What is this doing for you and for the people for whom you make this art? Like,
right.
and that's I actually,
For
not
the
everybody
eventual
makes art.
observer participant.
Yes, and not everybody's making art for others, so I'm not
Sure.
making any
Right.
blanket statements. But for me, I have
Great.
yeah, I like to think of I disseminate my work because I want connection,
hmm
because I want to create that. So that's so that became a really important value for me. It is um what is the actual effect that I am having through this artwork, through the use of technology? What is the actual effect that I am having on someone else's body and mind? So I do think that technology is not the problem. Technology is a tool. It's like saying the paintbrush is a terrible problem, right? It's just a
hmm
tool. Um, the question is, how are you going to use that technology, and to what end? So people have many different voices and things that they say with their work. Some messages are difficult to hear and must be said. So I'm definitely not, again, I'm not making any blanket statements about what
No, you
art,
can only talk about your own work and
yeah,
your own
about,
practice. Yeah,
right. I'm not
it's
saying anything
understandable.
about what art should be in a general sense. I'm saying very
You can though. Do
specifically,
whatever you want.
you know what, I don't, I
Art
think
according to Nora.
it's true. No, I think it's difficult, or I'm realizing retrospectively, it's very difficult to sometimes to know why it is you're making art and what your, I guess, what your purpose is in life, you know? So, like, this
Yeah,
is a very, very hard question.
philosophical
It
questions.
is.
Yeah.
So this is the way I answered it for myself. So the work that I make, I use technology that, I want, I aim to make work that aesthetically is, very pleasing, very, very pleasing, and
Hmm.
also expresses some sort of, or has an element of, where my body is in some way connected with the work, or where it
Mm.
facilitates some
So
sort of,
you're there. You're in
yeah.
your work.
So I'm
Yeah.
in my work, and then also it, sometimes the work facilitates, either a feedback loop, sort of a connection or awareness that the person has with themselves. Like, it's not, in that way, it's kind of not about the work, it's about themselves experiencing the work, which is like, I don't
Mm.
know how often you talked about meditation, you mentioned meditation, but it's
Hmm.
not often that we sit down and say, oh, let me observe myself being aware. Like, that's really
Yeah. For people who are not into meditation.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's like, when do we give ourselves the opportunity to be aware of our own
Permission to do
awareness?
that.
Which,
Hmm.
again, like, awareness is a very special feature of, like, human consciousness, and it's a special gift that we that we have, that, you know, we're not, uh yeah, even if there is some consciousness in other, for instance, like in plants or stars or something, you,
Yeah.
perhaps there is consciousness without awareness, right? So,
Hmm.
um, like, oh, I am in the I am aware that I am thinking this thing. I am aware that I am experiencing heat rather than
Right.
just
Matter knowing itself.
hotness. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, or a shared connection. That's the other,
Hmm.
in the case of work where you have, like, multiple people's, data sort of feeding off of each other. So yeah, so that's to answer your question. It's like, I think that, um, technology is a tool that can be used. It can be wielded, for all sorts of toward all sorts of ends, and,
Right. Well, and kind of back
yeah.
to something else you said is that I've been enjoying for myself an expansive definition of technology as well. That
Hmm.
so I want to say the paintbrush is a technology.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh,
that
I would
with that
agree.
when even as like we both know that when I talk about technology, like we're kind of alluding to computing and that kind of
Recent.
thing.
We're alluding to
Yeah,
recent technology, but yes,
recent-ish. Yeah,
I'm a huge I'm a huge fan of that big
like
view.
big pen
Yeah.
technology. Yeah,
Yeah, or like the just the lens that you're talking about, like, you've got a wide lens on the word technology, and I absolutely think that, okay, this is a word of Greek origin.
mm.
The
I
ancient
love how these like
Greeks.
when I have to ask you to define words, or it's like Nora did in academia. I'm like I have an undergrad degree.
That's okay. That's okay.
But go
Um,
ahead. So tell me about Greek.
well, it's like, technology. So tech, like the word technique. It's,
Mm,
your artistry and your skill, and, logos. Uh, for technology.
hmm.
It refers to, well, certainly, like, language, right?
Okay.
But broader than that, it's expression. So
Mm,
technology is like a way of expressing your art and your skill.
Mm.
So
Wait. Can you say that again?
a way of expressing your artistry or your skill. So
Is
like for instance,
technology.
is technology. Yeah. So you said very very instinctually you're like, yeah, a paintbrush is technology, and I would say absolutely, I agree with that. I agree with that statement, because if you have a technique or an artistry and then you express it through this paintbrush, this tool, then that is your technology. So I think the only thing that distinguishes technology is you have old technology and new technology. And it's fun to have the bringbacks too. Like there's been a lot of that with like um I mean the photorealist photographers,
Mm-hmm.
that aesthetic isn't new. Go to the museum. Well, look at some Dutch
Yeah,
paintings of
photos. Yeah.
fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
People have been doing it.
yeah, like they've been doing photorealism for look, hundreds of years ago. So that's so it's like the ideas, they're just expressed with new technology instead of old technology, like the paintbrush. So the
Mm-hmm.
metronome at one time was like, wow,
Holy smokes.
new technology. And
Yeah,
yeah, and it changed music.
it absolutely.
And now we've got music that's like very like ruled, and I mean in a good way, like a sumptuous way, like ruled by BPM. You have
Right.
all categories
That can
just
be
based
very
on,
fun.
yeah, just based on BPM
Get
range.
our
Like, yeah.
get our drum and bass.
Yeah,
Have
exactly.
a good
Exactly.
old time.
So, yeah, exactly. So our tools shape how we do things, and sort of they shape genres, they create new genres, but honestly, I think we're still kind of talking about the same subjects throughout time.
Yeah,
So
which
for the most part.
I think you can take it, more than one way. It's like that can be a little like, okay, it's like it can be a little depressing to be like, there's nothing new, there's nothing novel, and it's like, but also I can find that very comforting, and I can find that it gives me, I feel, a relationship to human beings across time in that way, and like human experience. If we talk about, we have been looking at this same thing but different ways for basically ever, I think that can be a very comforting or positive idea.
Oh, I think it's fascinating, because I don't see it as I don't see it in any way as like depressing, because it's not like we're not rehashing some resolved matter.
Yeah,
We're,
it's
it's
unresolved. Yeah.
centuries after centuries of people still trying to define certain ideas or concepts. The cultures still haven't resolved their ideas about the origin of the universe, the extent to which
Yeah,
this universe
still
has meaning or
still
not.
open.
The people don't know what consciousness is. These are not. This is These are questions that we just keep working on, and
Yeah.
that's inspiring. It's like you could sign up for a job where like everything is you know you don't need any imagination to resolve your tasks, but our job as humans is to keep working like century after century after century on tasks that are just so beyond us, and we strive with our wonderful prefrontal lobes, or maybe more, to to tackle these questions. So, and yeah, I find it so helpful. My daughter and I are in a Stoic book club. It's just the two of us.
Oh
So
my gosh, it just got better. I love
yeah,
it. We're in a book club. It's me and
yeah,
her.
it's just the two of us. But
So
my
great.
point is that it's you can read philosophy that was written um quite a many centuries
Many,
ago,
many a time ago.
many a time ago, and it is so applicable to today. So yeah, so I am not I embrace that because there's like something for me to research, right? Like
Yes.
if yes,
Books, library. Yay.
yes. So
Woohoo.
yeah.
How
So
fun.
yeah.
Oh, lovely. Well, I do want to ask, and I thought of a silly segue because I know you had a couple of your pieces ready that we could like kind of show a little bit for the YouTube and kind of talk through for the audio. And I was like, speaking of neuro,
Yes. Yes. Speaking of neuro. Okay, so yeah, I can do that for sure. Let me just share. I'll share the
which one shall we
screen.
do first?
I'm going to talk about the dream.
Ooh, yeah, that's the one
Yeah,
that was at Ars Electronica, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll start it and
We can just kind of talk about what's
yeah,
happening.
yeah, if you can
So,
hear
so
me.
this
So,
is
yeah,
what I'm looking at
I'll
now is
pause it.
neuro
I'll pause.
data.
Yes, exactly. So,
Oh,
this
it stopped playing.
yeah, I stopped it just so
Oh,
that I could explain what that was. But
great.
so I am in this exhibition. The everything is running in real time from my
Mm.
body. Uh, so I didn't film myself, but I'm wearing. I never include myself in the documentation, so I have to rethink. I'm not very good at the documentation part. Anyway,
That
the
says every artist I know, so
I know
it's okay.
that's
Like everyone has to document so you can get funding and grants and apply to things, but everyone's just like, documenting.
I neglect to put myself in it. But anyway, so I am wearing an EEG sensor, which is a sensor that detects brainwave
Mm-hmm.
electrical activity. So you can actually, yeah, detect that outside of your skull, which is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these waves across the screen, these are my brainwaves from the various sensors and in different frequencies.
Okay, because I see a bunch of different colors, and so the different colors are different frequencies. I see the word theta on there.
Yeah,
Theta,
exactly. And you
delta,
see
a few deltas.
dB. Yeah, and you see dB. That's it's measured, and that's its the way the raw data is
The unit.
measured.
Okay.
But yeah. So like as a musician, I'm sure you're well aware and perhaps enjoy knowing that like the everything is waves, right? Like
Yes,
sound
everything is
waves,
waves.
light waves, and brain waves. And
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, so I'm recording or I am capturing that in real time, and then it is going. I'm sending the data wirelessly to VCV Rack, which is a
Yes.
virtual, yes, a fun virtual software that mimics a modular rack. You can
Synthesizer.
see
Yeah.
there's a module right down in the right hand corner that is receiving the OSC data and sending it
Mm-hmm.
to all
Oh,
of
I see
these
the
different
oscillators,
yeah.
probably.
And then it's also sending
AKA waves.
data to I'm using Touch Designer for the particle
Yeah. Oh, Dutch
system.
design for the visuals. Yes.
Yeah, so that's what it looks like on my computer. And then slow pan to the left.
Nice.
This
Oh,
is
and then
what
so then there's the visual that's what's created with Touch Designer. It almost looks
ex
like rain.
yes. So
Oh,
yeah, so the particles are
I also like your color
responding.
choice. Is that hanging
Thank you.
on a screen or is that projected on the wall or like it kind of
No,
looks
it's
it's
multiple screens that are translucent, so that's why it looks
whoa.
holographic.
that's what, yeah, it has like a three-dimensional quality, which is what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. So,
And so, oh, and look at all these people experiencing art.
yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So that's, you can see a little bit from the side that there are three screens
Yeah, I can see
that
the
are hanging.
layers.
Yeah. So, and this fellow is wearing the EEG headset. You can see just in the
So it almost looks
left
like a
that,
headband.
yep. Yeah, it's very lightweight. It's
And so you let
not
people, so you did it, but then you also let
Mhm.
other people be the data input.
Exactly. If they asked, yes.
If they
Yes.
ask nicely,
Well,
then
okay, so it's um so that's basically it.
yeah.
Um okay, let me stop sharing. Right.
Mhm.
So yes, the I take a very gentle approach to audience participation. I let people's curiosity guide them, and um and I have observed that many people are content to watch from afar, and
It's a form of
they
participation,
it
watching.
is it
Yeah.
is it's totally a form of participation. And
Mhm.
in fact, it's funny because as a performer, right, like I spent so many years on stage,
Like
but
being on stage, right?
yeah, but when I'm not on stage, I do not like to participate at all. Like when someone's
When you
like,
go
oh,
into a
could you,
thing and then they're like, you get to participate, and you're just like, ugh.
yeah, like I just want to be invisible
I
and
want to
just,
just, I'm here to not work. I'm here
yeah,
to
maybe that's,
experience.
yeah, maybe that's part of it. And I think that that was the primary motivation, how I felt, why I felt like that at first. But now when I think about it, it's that I actually have a like a more nuanced response. It's that there's something about there's something about I think that there's when you're really in the flow or involved in something,
Hmm.
um I think that there's likely some suppression of mechanisms in your brain that create a sense of self.
Oh,
So
okay.
um
Because you're trying to be part of rather than be self.
yeah. So I
Ah,
I
okay.
so I'm actually very interested. That's another thing that I'm interested in artistically. It's like
Hmm.
can how can I create something that allows, and I'm sure in music this is so, like I really envy like musical experiences. I feel like you can really, like, like especially those concerts where you can just lie down and listen to the music, like
Uh, I
just
love a good lie down concert.
I
Not
love a lie
enough lie down
I
concerts.
love a lie down concert. So
There's
the
just
yeah,
2025 more lie down concerts.
I agree. And
Take me to like take all the seats out of a planetarium, put on like have some ambient musicians on, and let's roll. Like,
yeah, could we do that? Because I was just going to
let's
say
do it.
the
It's
first the
for
yeah,
real. It's a great time. I've been to a couple and I haven't seen one
yeah.
in a minute, and I think that that stuff to me never gets old.
No.
I
So the
love it.
first time I did work for the planetarium dome, I it
Hmm.
was at the Fells Planetarium here. I made in collaboration with a programmer, because at the time that was only like 2018 and my programming chops weren't where they needed
Sure.
to be. But I had the concept, and so I created a ballet for the dome.
Ah,
And
lovely. Wait, so like the
yeah,
stars were the ballet?
so
Like, or
well,
the thing,
my
like things on the dome, or
my colleague named Jason Haggerty is a really, really great digital artist.
mhm.
He knew how to use Notch, so
I'm
that's
familiar.
another
Okay.
software. It does wonders with particle systems. So
Cool.
the so basically my body was made up of like stars, particle stars, and
Ah, yes, yes, yes,
it
yes.
was a
Okay, okay.
beautiful. I basically what we made was like a mandala. It's called mandala, a
Mm-hmm.
mandala of my body dancing. And so compositionally, that's how it, it's like different parts went in and out. And
Mm.
yeah, and I told everyone to lie down, and everyone did,
Love
and
it.
it was a
People are
quite
like,
a
say less.
yeah, it's great. So anyway, so I am um really interested from a philosophical standpoint in um the role the self plays, or the
Mm.
construction of self, and the fact that we connect, like our bodies connect with other bodies, like synchronize with other bodies. I like the idea of the self sort of dissolving away and having this inter being connection that kind of supersedes the notion of self, which it's like, how do I mean, it's a legitimate question. Like, do we have? Is there an actual separate self, or is this just a construction that, of course, is necessary? Like, we can't go shopping and get a job and do things unless we have a
Like have some concept of a name to put down on the resume,
yes, like
a
yeah,
concept
like
of an organism that is a complete organism
yes,
separate from
yeah,
other organisms. Like
totally,
it can all
yes.
be fake and real at the same time.
Yes, exactly that. So yes, you would understand. Like I'm not saying like, oh, we like a separate sense of self. It's bad. Like I don't have any like good bad
No, there's
kind
no
of thing.
value judgment in that.
No,
No.
it's that we must have a constructed sense of self, and
Hmm.
that is, as you were alluding, true in a certain sense,
Hmm.
and also simultaneously, perhaps it is less true than we would attribute
Hmm.
to that. And so, yeah, so that's also something that I'm super interested in. But yeah, we should do, I would love to do
I know,
visuals
now we
for
have a
another
show
dome
idea.
piece.
It's like,
Yeah,
wait, we
that's great.
should. I was thinking about to shout out someone else from Philly AV, but Graylin's installation when Graylin did uh Supine Horizons. I can literally have the sticker on my laptop. I'm tempted to be like and look at the sticker. But it was, I think it might have been while you were out of town, when you were off getting your MFA. Um,
Out of town for 3 years.
out
Yeah.
of town for 3 years. And Graylin did this wonderful installation, which was it was a radical vision of rest. And it was in fact a timed thing where you go in and like you could go, it was out in Germantown in Philadelphia. And it was an installation and with lots of soft places to lay down. And part
That's,
of the statement and thesis of it was about rest
yes,
and then, like the rest as a radical concept or radical resistance to the systems in which we find ourselves. And
yes,
such a great piece, wonderful work by
that's right.
Graylin. So
That's right. So, I mean, this maybe gets to kind of I guess the pinnacle of the point that I was trying to make earlier about technology and that it as a tool, and like
mm-hmm.
counter to sort of this idea of like our increasing like despair in
Yeah,
society or whatever, but
right.
that
When
that
despair feeds on itself.
it does. But
Yeah.
so yeah, like that Graylin show sounds amazing, and I'm sure I would have loved that. Uh that technology can well, I love that it can be quite spectacular and
Mm.
just um old-fashioned old-fashioned feelings like awe and wonder, right?
Wonder, exactly. I was
Yes,
thinking that
awe
word.
and wonder.
It can induce this feeling
Yes,
in
yes,
a room in the middle of the city.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that there are the strength of technology. If you, well, like what I've done with it is I've really thought, how can I use this tool to bring out or to capitalize on or to highlight like some of the most incredible feelings that we want to access, which is like awe and wonder, uh, 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 um, the feeling of like being awestruck with something beautiful, the way that touches us, the way that makes us feel, the time that we have this incredible sense of awareness, like it's like, oh, what's happening to me? Like I'm
Mm.
alive.
Oh my
Or
goodness.
the
The
connect.
horrifying wonder of being alive. Yeah.
Yeah, the connection that you have with others, or even just simply like this shared experience, like when um that you you just look at someone and you both agree like, oh, that's really nice, I
Yeah.
just like something to, or that will induce you to sit because it's something pleasing to the eyes that allows you to just rest.
Yeah. And
So
I also, you ended up using the word I was thinking of. Is that something, because you had said it earlier about in your art, again, that like you're only talking about yourself. People can make whatever they want. But
and
that in
yes.
your art that you're making these, I think it's very neat that you're thinking about making your experiences pleasurable, and like pleasure
Yeah.
as a
Mm.
thing to induce, that it's
Yes.
because a lot of people have problems letting themselves feel that.
Yes.
And
And
so
and,
trying
and
to
I
create something with that intent.
yes. And also um I guess we're in a I feel well, who knows? Because I didn't live in another time, but I was going to say we live in a whatever time now, but who knows what
Sure, sure,
other
sure.
times we're like. Okay, so
Right.
I'll say that it's my observation that um like there's a great importance on like art, like criticism,
Mm,
critical theory. Uh, I just came out of academia, so there was
right.
so it
Of
was very,
taking a thing, and then how do we take it apart, and
yeah,
how do we
but also like art that it's used to highlight like everything that's wrong
sure.
with
Yeah.
society. So
Which
I
is
don't know.
an important thing to be
It
doing.
is, it is. But what I wanted to what I wanted to say was that I think that the subject of well-being
Mm.
is it has equal academic value.
Mm. Like how are we well?
Yes. Like
Whenever I hear
what's
the word, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say like what yeah, well-being is a
Hmm.
mm, yeah, it's laden, I suppose, with like the
Wellness,
the
or the
wellness
wellness
industry.
industry,
Yeah. So,
and
but I
yeah,
mean well-being I mean it in like a deep way. Like
yeah,
what do you need as a human being? Like I'm talking about the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm talking about like
sure.
beauty and fulfillment and things that are meaningful
Wonder.
experiences,
Yeah.
wonder. Yeah, like the a sense of connection to whatever it is you believe that you might be connected to. Um, so these kind of things are, if we discount them academically, then um, we will starve ourselves of them
Mm,
because then if that extends to like funding systems and whatnot, then you don't want, I would say, work that is desperately needed and important um, to not be funded uh, because things that are in these ways pleasurable or beautiful or satisfying or
are somehow less.
restorative, yeah, are somehow dismissed as like merely pleasant and entertaining, which is like
Yeah, it's like
entertaining is like
what's wrong with things
the
being pleasant?
yeah,
That's
right. And
one, like it's like
yeah,
that's maybe we can be okay with that.
yes, I yeah, I think that people and that this is a problem maybe with the advent of, or the um the advent of technology, is that people maybe are not giving sufficient weight isn't given to things that we actually need to thrive, and that happiness is not it's not an incidental or trivial subject at all. So yeah. So I think that technology is a good way to explore like these, I'd say, crucial needs of humans. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great note on art and technology.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
And and I wanted to give you the opportunity. Did you want to we had talked about a second piece. Did you want to look through that, or do you want to where do you
um,
want to take this right now?
I would say,
You gave it like
uh,
that was actually a great wrap up right there. And
yeah,
so I was like, but I
I'm
wanted to give you
satisfied
the
with that.
opportunity.
I was going to
Great.
say people can, I have a lot of stuff on my website. So if people are
Yeah, let's okay, so we'll do
curious
the
about,
yeah, it's like
yeah.
so let's please move into the please tell the people where they can find you. You mentioned that you're going to be at like some festivals or how they can follow like where your work is, see previous work you've done.
Yeah. Well, okay, you can see my work on my website, and
And I'll drop the link in the show notes for that.
yeah, basically if you Nora Gibson Visualist, .com, if you look
Hmm.
that up, you'll find me. Um and yeah, the dream is traveling to another festival, but I can't say which one yet because
It's
it's not
exciting.
it is the contract has not been signed yet, but yeah, the dream will go elsewhere, which is great, and
Very cool.
I love that it's really a labor of love because I have to be there the entire time. So in fact,
Yeah. I was
I'm
wondering when you described
serving.
that it's since you're attached to the data, that it's a would you consider it performance art?
I did later. I did after I did it.
Yeah,
I,
I would put it anything that
yeah,
requires the person to be there. I would, not having
yeah,
an art degree, I would throw in the performance art
yes.
category.
So it's I after I had the experience at the festival, I realized that, oh, this is a durational piece,
Mm,
and and um and pieces are experienced by different people in different ways, right? So
hmm.
I'm also a participant. So for
Right.
me, the experience is about um, attending to and connecting with other people,
Mm,
because that's what I do the entire time, all day, just being in a state of openness and
wow. And that all
trying to
connects to what
connect
you were
with.
saying earlier about, oh, how am I reacting to this loneliness epidemic? What is
Yeah,
my art doing
yeah,
with that? And
yeah.
that's you're
Uh,
there. You're there with people.
Yeah, I would say
Hmm.
one of the most rewarding things about that piece is that the quality of the conversations, even if brief, that I have with people, that many people would share, you know, personal and very serious views of how they are experiencing themselves, or how they might feel like connected to a greater whole, the universe, or however, they might define that. And um, that's not a conversation you get to have every day with people that you don't know. So this piece was like a direct link to
Wow. Yeah.
kind of this,
Just a direct
like,
line to these kind of deep conversations.
yes, exactly. And so I didn't realize that this piece would be a conduit for this kind of like really sincere, earnest connection with other people. But that's what the piece is for me. And for other
Wonderful.
people, they get to sit like looking at a pond and just
Hmm.
restore. So,
Very cool. Hmm.
but
Lovely.
importantly, like, people are making that experience for others with their body. So,
Yes,
yeah.
very much so.
Anyway, so yeah, so people can go on the website and take a look at that, or other pieces that um,
Wonderful.
are are similarly constructed or have similar goals.
Great. And then I think I mentioned this before in our pre-show, is that Nora and I made a movie together. So we
Yes.
made a short film in 2020, and we did it for an online film festival, and we did it all over email. And so it's this little mini horror movie we did with a third collaborator who wrote the story. But it's
Hmm.
all using video from the Internet Archive as well. So it was in the found footage
Right.
category.
Right.
And I did the music and some editing. Nora did this really cool visual piece in there. And so I will also be dropping that in the show notes because I think that that's just
Yes.
cool that we did that thing. I watched it recently and it really I think it aged really well. It's like spooky and how it aged.
That
So
I'm
Project
so
Brain States.
yes, I'm so glad to hear that. Yes. Oh, well then I realized that I'll bring it full circle. I didn't finish the story on Philly AV. That the fact that I went as a just a uh, tourist essentially to that
Mm,
festival was so inspired because I was
mm-hmm,
seeing work and different mediums that I just didn't
mm-hmm,
even know existed. And it
mm-hmm,
just blew my mind. So I was like, how do I incorporate this? And that really kind of started my journey into technology in earnest. But then it wasn't long
mm-hmm.
after that I reached out to Andy Tiroff, a percussionist here in Philly,
Yeah,
but who does like
Andy's.
very, very contemporary stuff and very experimental stuff. Um, and that's why I said to him, like, I want to start this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, so then he and I were reaching out to, and people that we knew who might be interested. And that's how it formed. So it's like
Yeah.
we all, yeah, people who were like-minded, found each other to work on,
Just some cool
oh,
stuff.
yeah, some neat stuff, and to be in a really lovely place where often people were trying to figure out how to do something.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Which,
Learning
yeah,
and exploration was a really strong value, which I
that's
think
right.
was
And I
yeah.
find that is definitely the case in anyone involved in new media that or
Mm,
technology, that it's just constant
mm-hmm.
learning new techniques all the time. So, um, yeah, it was that was great. And yeah, and so that's how we met.
Yes, that's how we
Yes.
met.
So
Then someone saw me play at a show and was like, "You should come do this thing."
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And that was a new one for me. I had actually never heard of like algo raves um
Yeah. Live
before that.
code
So
and
I was just like,
mhm.
oh my gosh, that's
Fun
pretty
stuff.
neat.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Nora.
You're
I'll
welcome.
plug uh, until next time on Ignore All Previous Instructions. We are on the social media at Instagram at techcult.podcast, now on Blue Sky at techcultpodcast. And if you want to give me money, there's a way you can do that at Patreon/techcultpodcast. And I can send you a sticker if you do that. Thank you so much, Nora. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you. I enjoyed this immensely. Thanks, Pam.